I'm Travis Bain and I'm a filmmaker based in North Queensland. I went to Brisbane in 1998 to study film and TV production at a TAFE college, and I did a one-year course there which was very hands-on, and it got me involved in making short films and working on community TV and that sort of thing, some music videos, some TV commercials. And through that I learned how to use cameras and edit footage and light a scene and record audio and all that sort of thing. Made some short films, won some awards, got them into some short film festivals, and it was a fairly steady progression from there into my first feature, Scratched, which came about in 2002. I shot that on a mini DV camcorder with some volunteer actors in Brisbane, and basically through the magic of choosing the right location, I was able to make the film look like it was made in Townsville with the help of some stock footage. That film is about a bunch of university students living in a share house, and they're all chasing a $1 million scratchy ticket that's hidden somewhere inside the house. So it was a comedy drama. It was my first foray into feature filmmaking. It probably cost me about $3,000, I think, all told. It was a good experience, a good chance to get my feet wet and learn what my limitations were, and also learn what my strengths were. And out of that I decided to keep going and make another feature, but this time make it a genre film, because around that same time the Spierig brothers were having a lot of success with their film Undead, their famous zombie film that they made on a low budget. So I thought, well, I want to get a piece of that action if I can, so next time around I'm going to try and make a genre film and really aim higher than I did with the first one. Throwback Gang came about because in about, I think, 2006 or so, I was hell-bent on making a stop-motion dinosaur film as my next feature, because I wanted to pay tribute to the works of Ray Harryhausen and his classic dinosaur films, which is a genre I love. And I tried to get it off the ground, but in the end I realised it was just too big a project for me to tackle on my own. It was pretty involved. It had lost civilizations in it and all these crazy dinosaur effect scenes and stuff like that. And I mean, maybe if I had more money I could have done it, but at the time I had no real funding available to me, and Scratched hadn't really opened enough doors for me to get that funding. So I thought, well, what sort of monster movie can I make on a low budget? That's when I started thinking back to my youth, and when I was a kid living in the north coast of New South Wales, I used to hear a lot of stories from my dad and similar people about a creature called the Yowie. And Kempsey down there in New South Wales is actually a big Yowie hotspot. There's been a lot of sightings around there. So the mythology of the Yowie sort of seeped into my consciousness in a way, and he was always there in the back of my mind. And it was like a light bulb moment I had in about 2006, I think, when I suddenly realised no one had made a feature film about the Yowie before, which I found extraordinary. As you know, there's heaps and heaps of Bigfoot films that have been made in the US, and lots of films about the abominable snowman and so forth, but there's never been a feature film made about Australia's legendary hairy man. So I thought I'd give it a crack, and I thought, well, this is going to be a cheaper and easier idea to do than a stop-motion dinosaur film, because I don't need a heap of puppets and I don't need to create miniature sets and all that sort of thing. So what about if I just get a convincing monster costume, put a guy in that, and we'll shoot the film and see how it turns out. And I'll take the Alien approach and basically conceal the monster as much as I can, and suggest him with sound effects and oblique camera angles and out of focus shots and that sort of thing as much as possible. So that's where Throwback came about, and I set about making it. Originally I was going to shoot it in Brisbane, but these things always take longer to put together than you think. So in the end I ran out of time to do it in Brisbane with the people I was hoping to do it with down there. Because I had to move to Cairns for work opportunities and a lifestyle change and that sort of thing. So as soon as I got to Cairns, I started immediately looking around the local area for locations. I started meeting local actors and trying to figure out how I could make Throwback in the Cairns area. And I quickly discovered that up in North Queensland is actually a better location than just about anywhere else in Australia for this kind of film, because we have some amazing locations here. And a lot of them are only a couple of hours drive from Cairns. We have beautiful rainforests, of course, but we also have caves and sinkholes and all sorts of cool stuff. So I thought things like that would really add production value to the film. So I wrote the script and tweaked it a bit. In the end I ended up casting some local actors for the film. We shot it over the course of 3 years of weekends, put it together, and now it's done quite well. It's been in 10 international film festivals, it's won some awards, and now it's getting a release all over the world. It's out in Australia, the UK, and it's coming out soon in the US, so we've done pretty well for a little movie that costs less than a used car. Well, we started shooting in about 2010, and that was sort of when DSLRs were just coming to the fore, but they weren't really taking off yet as a key filmmaking tool. People were experimenting with them and doing some interesting things, like Vincent Laforêt and guys like that, but I was looking at test videos at the time, and I was seeing a lot of negatives because the early DSLRs had some issues. They had aliasing problems, they had moire issues, they didn't have very good contrast, a lot of them had very poor audio, that sort of thing, rolling shutter artifacts. Some of them, like the Canon series, would overheat after a short time, and I thought, well, if I'm shooting a film out in North Queensland jungle, I don't want a camera that's going to overheat on me and break down every 5 minutes. So I decided that I had two ways to go. I could either spend a lot of money on new camera bodies and lenses and filters and all that sort of stuff, or I could just use the camera I already had to shoot throwback on, which was a Canon HV20. Now, the Canon HV20 was probably the camcorder of the year in 2007. It was a real groundbreaking camera for many reasons. It was a small palmcorder that had a lot of professional features. A very good zoom lens with a maximum f1.8 aperture, so very good in low light. Also, you have a cine mode, so you can shoot flat and color grade later. Very, very good audio recording with manual audio control and all that sort of thing. Just very easy little camera to operate, very lightweight. You know, you can move around with it. It's not too heavy. It doesn't break your back or break your wrist after a while. It allows you to get nice and close to your actors if you want to, or step back. It's up to you. You've got a zoom lens there to play with if you want to. So I decided to just shoot on that camera and get the best results out of it that I could, and the camera is really capable of quite good results. So I decided to just shoot on that camera and just get the best out of it that I could, and the camera is really capable of very good results if you shoot manually. And the trick was, I think, to underexpose wherever possible, because most consumer camcorders overexpose. But if you stop it down a couple of levels, usually you can get a nice pleasing image out of it and a nice dynamic range and tone and that sort of thing. We also avoided extremes of contrast by shooting in the early part of the day as well, and often in the later part of the day, so we weren't dealing with the harsh midday sun. So quite often we'd go out in the bush at about 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe shoot till 10 or 11 or whatever, or if we needed an afternoon shoot, we'd start about 3 and go till sunset or something like that, depending on the needs of the scene. So overall I was very happy with the little camcorder. It didn't really let me down. It shot to tape, which was a very easy format for me to edit on the computer I had at the time. I was able to just connect up a Firewire cable and capture footage quite easily. So probably not as sexy a camera as you can get today, or even 2 or 3 years ago, but it certainly delivered pretty good results. And everyone I've shown the film to, or the trailer to, seems to think that we shot on a much more expensive camera. So I think it just bolsters my philosophy that it's not necessarily the camera you have or how many pixels you have, it's what you do with it that counts. The trailer for Throwback has a little snippet of what looks like found footage in it, where one of the heroes is shooting himself on a little pocket camcorder. But in fact that footage is only seen in the trailer. It was never actually used in the film, and nor was it meant to be. It was simply a means to get across the adventure that the characters are on very quickly in about 10 seconds and explain why they've gone out in the bush, deep in the remote jungles. So we shot that little segment specifically for the trailer, but the rest of the film is shot in a very traditional narrative style. I avoided the found footage approach because I felt that it was getting a bit overused, to be honest. And you know, in the wake of the Blair Witch Project, there's been just an unbelievable amount of found footage films, and most of them have been rubbish. There's been a few good ones, a few high points. I think I quite enjoy Paranormal Activity. I haven't seen Chronicle yet, but I've heard from a lot of people that it's pretty good. But yeah, I think the found footage angle was getting a bit hackneyed. Unless you can freshen it up and add something new to it, I don't think it's worth sort of beating a dead horse. So that's why I wanted to take a more traditional narrative approach, and that also allowed me to put the cinematography on screen that I wanted to, because when you're dealing with the found footage technique, you sort of have to make your film look amateurish and shaky, and you know, you can't compose your shots beautifully, and that's what I wanted to do for Throwback. I wanted to make it look like a big widescreen epic, basically. It was inspired by a lot of jungle films that I've loved over the years, especially Predator, shot by the great Don McAlpine, and films going back right to, you know, The Bridge on the River Kwai, which was just beautifully shot. The African Queen, a lot of jungle films like that I grew up watching. I just wanted to emulate that beautiful widescreen look, and I couldn't do that with a found footage angle, so that's why I decided to take a narrative, traditional approach. There are 2 Yowie films in release, myself, my film Throwback, and Dane Millard's film There's Something in the Pilliga, and Dane actually took the found footage approach, and I think he pulled it off quite well. And it's good that there are two Yowie films out there now which both I think look at the legend from 2 completely different points of view. I mean, you couldn't get 2 films that are probably further apart in style and tone. Dane's film is very gritty and very hard-edged and very raw, and my film is, I suppose, more classical and stately. And you know, there's nothing wrong with the approach he's taken at all. It's just a different look at the legend. So I think it's good that audiences now have a choice of whether they want, you know, the more traditional, you know, looking Yowie film, or the more modern, I suppose you'd say, edgy sort of found footage Yowie film. And honestly, Throwback is literally a throwback. I mean, as the title suggests, it's a more retro approach to filmmaking, and yeah, it's definitely taken on an old school cinema approach. Usually on my films, there's time and budget restraints on workshopping and rehearsals and all that sort of stuff that some directors do. So I usually just jump straight in, and I'd sort of take the Woody Allen and Clint Eastwood approach of just hiring good actors who I'm confident can do a good job, and I just let them rip, really. If they seem to be going in the wrong direction or giving me something that I don't want, I steer them back on course. But quite often you have little happy accidents where they deliver something that elevates the script or that you didn't think of. So I love it when moments like that happen. So yeah, basically I just turn the camera on and just try and make the actors feel as relaxed and natural as they can. Just create an atmosphere where they're not, you know, they don't feel like they're deer in headlights, you know. So yeah, I basically just give them the script, and I say to them, look, this is the blueprint for the film. Feel free to go outside the lines if you want to. If you feel uncomfortable saying the line a particular way, you can change it if you like. But mostly the actors I work with are happy to do the dialogue as it's written, and they pretty much perform it as I hope it will be performed, and sometimes better than I expect. So I just try to get out of their way, really, and let them do their job. And yeah, I try not to over direct them too much, because I think that can lead to them perhaps overthinking their performances too much. And some actors, I think, have a tendency to sort of step outside their bodies and look at themselves and watch themselves performing, and I want them to be just in the moment and feeling like they're in the shoes of their character, and usually that's what we get. And luckily we've had some good praise for the acting in Throwback so far. Everyone seems pretty happy with the performances of different characters. And look, if somebody has a criticism of a particular way a line is said or something like that, you know, I'm prepared to take responsibility for that, for not writing a more natural sounding line. But on the whole, I think we've done pretty well, and Throwback is not just a creature feature with a lot of killing and stuff going on. It's also a solid drama with some good performances, and I think that's been borne out in the fact that Vernon Wells won a Best Supporting Actor award at a New York Film Festival. So well done, Vernon, and congratulations, and let's keep the awards coming over our next few films. The biggest challenge we had with Throwback was the fact that it was such an extended filming schedule over several years that we were more vulnerable to life events happening to our actors, which normally wouldn't happen in the course of a 3 or 4 week film shoot. But because we were spread out over 3 years, we were much more prone to things going wrong. So we had little issues where people got sick and whatnot, but we were usually able to get around those. But the biggest one we couldn't get around was the fact that our lead actress Melanie got pregnant halfway through the shoot unexpectedly, and it was a joyful event. It was a very happy time. We were very thrilled for her and everything, but it threw Throwback into quite a bit of chaos, because we'd filmed her scenes for Act 1 and her scenes for Act 3, but we hadn't really touched upon most of her scenes for the middle part of the film. So I was left wondering, okay, well, how am I going to bridge the gap between Act 1 and 3 without the connective tissue of Act 2 that we were hoping to film with Melanie and her interactions with various other characters like McNabb and Jack and Kent and people like that. So for a little while there, for a couple of days, I actually thought the movie was dead in the water, or maybe we would have to reshoot all of her scenes with another actress. But I really didn't want to have to do that because it was already a lot of work. We'd already been filming for well over a year. We got some great material in the can, and it just would have required going back out and with somebody else. We never would have recaptured the magic, I don't think. And also, you know, there's the possibility that, you know, if we did that, even more problems could besiege us, and then we'd have to reshoot again, and the film would never be finished. So we thought, okay, well, what can we do to salvage the footage we've got and make this film work? And eventually, I just had to go back and rewrite the script. I had to redo the whole midsection of the film and work out, okay, well, I've got these bits of Melanie saying these lines of dialogue. How can I sort of change those or repurpose those to integrate them into new scenes, or change the impression of those scenes, change the meaning of those scenes. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we went out. We did probably another 6 or more months of filming. We did some insert shots with the main actors, Sean and Anthony. And we also found a body double in a young lady called Emma, who was able to put on Melanie's costume and a wig. And you know, we just used smoke and mirrors basically to get the film finished any way we could. It's unfortunate that it happened in a way, because there were some cool scenes in the original script that I had to cut out. But that's life. That's what happens when you're making a low-budget film. So in the end, we managed to finish the film, which was good. And I don't think it suffered too much for it, because we have, as I said, we've played a few film festivals around the world, and we've done quite well in the awards scene. So it turned out okay in the end. And luckily, after Mel had had the baby, long afterwards, she came back to do one more day of filming for us, and that was to film a new ending, which was really cool, because we audience tested the original ending we shot, and people weren't real happy with it. You know, it lacked oomph. I think it lacked impact, and it didn't really give a strong character arc to Jack, the main character. So we reshot a new ending with Melanie, and thankfully she looked exactly the same as she always had. Like, you would not be able to tell the difference. You know, her face and her figure and her hair and everything were all the same. So we got lucky in that respect. So yeah, we got it done. So that was the biggest challenge. There were other little minor challenges along the way, like continuity issues that forced us to reshoot certain stuff. Bad weather besieged us at certain points. We had a lot of noise from machinery and, you know, things like tractors and dogs barking and cars going by, and we couldn't have any of that because the film is set way out in the wilderness, so you can't have, you know, planes and stuff going past. But on the whole, there weren't any real major dramas apart from the pregnancy issue, and we sort of surmounted that. So next time we're doing a 1 month block of filming probably, and just getting it all done and out of the way in one hit, so just to avoid that sort of issue.